What is up, YouTube? What is going on, fellow fantasy people? And of course, what is up, the catch fam? Hope everyone is doing fantastic tonight. Man, we're going to hop right into week 11 waiver wire must adds, and I'm going to stick around for a bit, man, and answer some fantasy Q&A. Not going to have like a late night stream tonight or anything, so we'll hop into the waiver wire editions. If you guys are watching this retrospectively or you're new to the channel, the first 20 to 30 minutes of this stream will be purely going over waiver wire editions, and everything after will more than likely just be hanging out with the catch fam and getting into some week 11 fantasy Q&A or Monday Night Football fantasy Q&A as well for those of you who need it. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that sub button down below, become part of the catch fam tonight, and make sure you hit that like button on the way in, man. Appreciate you guys stopping by tonight, I guess it is. And let's hop right into it, man. It's not a very lucrative week in terms of new waiver wire additions by any means, but there's enough players to go over that we have plenty to discuss. So I'm also using some new equipment tonight, guys. So let me know what you guys think. I look very white, like I'm like pale, like I look like a ghost almost. So I mean, uh, I don't know. Let me know how the visuals look, how everything looks in terms of audio as well as the other big one. 'Cause I'm using a new headset and mic. So, anyways, guys, I always appreciate you guys' feedback. So, let's hop into the waiver wire additions here and let's get rolling, man. All right. Number one on the list, and really this list that I do each week at the top of the screen, it's not necessarily in any order, but just so you guys know, it's not necessarily like this is your number one guy, but to some degree, I do usually put the people that are players that I would pick closer to the front. Anyways, let's get into it, man. Hit that like button on the way in. Hit the sub button if you're new to the channel. And let's get rolling, baby. All right. Ramondre Stevenson is obviously a must add player. I was surprised in a lot of leagues. He didn't really fly off of the waiver wire last week. And obviously, part of that was because we did not know Damian Harris's health right off the bat. But gosh, I mean, outside of Dearness Johnson or just alongside Dearness Johnson, this was the best waiver play of the week. I mean, and I guess including Mark Ingram as well. Listen, man, Stevenson might still be available. Like the only reason you don't see Johnson on the top of the screen there is because his, whether we play him or not, is dependent upon Nick Chubb's health, and he should be back here in week 11. And then the reason you don't see Mark Ingram is because he is dependent on Alvin Kamara's health. He may very well be back as well. And also, I just don't think Ingram's available in a lot of leagues. But nonetheless, Stevenson still is, man. He gets Atlanta in week 11. I love this matchup. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys just absolutely decimated Atlanta's defense. It looked very good from a running standpoint. And it really looks like the New England Patriots are leaning on the run game overall. So, here's the thing, man. We loved Stevenson here at the catch in the preseason and the offseason. I mean, we really thought this was going to be the back to take charge and take over this backfield. And don't get me wrong, Damian Harris has been fantastic on the season, man. He's been very, very good. But Stevenson has a chance to take over this backfield. And even if he doesn't, I could see a very even split between him and a healthy Damian Harris as well. And here's the thing. The Patriots are utilizing these running backs to take all the pressure off Mac Jones, and it's really, really allowing Mac Jones to play some good football or play better football in comparison to the beginning of the season. So I love Stevenson, man. I think he's worth holding on to. I think this is the point in the season where he needs to be completely rostered, right? Love this pickup. If he's available in your league, I think he is the top running back to own on the week. But with all of that being said, man, I'm still very high on Brandon Bolden in full PPR leagues, that is. Okay. We see the amount of receiving work he's gotten outside of week 8 over the past couple of weeks. And listen, man, he gets heavily involved. Okay. So in deeper leagues, especially in full PPR leagues, even some half PPR leagues, man, this is a great play, especially going up against Atlanta and Tennessee in the next coming weeks. While Tennessee is very good against opposing running backs, they're not very good in the secondary, and they are a little bit vulnerable against pass catching running backs as well. So I like Bolden as well, but he's more of a full PPR kind of deeper play overall. But really like these Patriots running backs, man. It is fully evident that Bill Belichick wants to run the football and then take that, pressure off Mac Jones and allow Mac Jones to play while, there's a little bit less pressure overall on him, right? And also, it's pretty evident at this point that Mac Jones really likes Hunter Henry, but that's a story for another night. Okay, Jamal Agnew I've got next on the list. Listen, man, this isn't like a fantastic play by any means, right? Jaguars outside of James Robinson just look absolutely abysmal. But here's the thing with Agnew, okay? He's actually kind of turning into like not the number one receiver, but he really is taking over Laviska Shenault's value, right? As the number two guy. Marvin Jones, rightfully so, is still lining up as the number one guy, but Agnew is right there with him, like in terms of production, because Jones just hasn't been extremely productive over the past couple of weeks. So you look over the since week 6, right? Double digits bye week, double digits, a fluke game versus Buffalo. Like I'm not going to count that against Jamal Agnew because it's Buffalo, and then double digits again versus Indianapolis. He's got San Francisco, Atlanta, the LA Rams, and Tennessee coming up. Maybe outside of the Rams. But even then again, against the Rams, our secondary is not very good outside of Jalen Ramsey, right? So with all that being said, he's got some good matchups coming up. Do I like him as a wide receiver 1 or 2? No. But for those of you who are hurting at the flex position, who are hurting at wide receiver depth, or maybe you play in a league where you have 2 flex spots, this is a very good ad. I mean, at this point, am I crazy confident in this move? No. But I own him in my 20-man league, for example. In deeper leagues, this is a great ad. He might already not be available in deeper leagues, but I've started him over the past couple of weeks in my 20-man league. I mean, my team's very, very, very much so hurting, but he's worth the addition at this point if the situation is right for you. You know what I'm saying? All right, Deonta Forbin, man. Okay, listen, I don't want to put a lot of faith in these Tennessee Titans running backs. I do think that this is going to continue to be a backfield where we see Adrian Peterson utilized, we see Foreman utilized, we see McNichols utilized as well. But Foreman looked like the best back in week 10 on this offense. They get Houston coming up here in week 11, a relatively tough matchup, but not the worst matchup ever versus New England. That should actually be a fairly good game as well in week 12. But listen, the reason I like Foreman, especially in deeper formats, PPR formats, similar to our guy Brandon Bolden, he does get involved in the receiving game. Okay, I know McNichols does as well, but Foreman got very involved in the receiving game here in week 10. So listen, I like Foreman, but his value does deplete with Adrian Peterson potentially taking away some goal line carries. But if Foreman can get going and really start to solidify himself as the primary bell cow back, even if Peterson is taking away some value at the goal line, I still like Foreman, man, because someone really has to solidify themselves, between weeks 9 and 12 as the number one guy for the Titans. I mean, this is a run-first offense, right? So I don't think that they're going to keep kind of juggling around between 3 guys. They're going to have their primary running back, and then they're going to utilize a goal line running back and a third down running back. And theoretically, it should be Foreman as the player who gets a bulk of the carries, and Peterson gets some goal line carries. And then, of course, McNichols is more of a pass-catching package guy, third down guy as well. So just keep an eye on Foreman. Keep an eye on this production. It went drastically up here in week 10. Houston's going to be a good, indicator in a game where Tennessee should be able to get up pretty early. And then New England should be a good indicator because this is one of the better teams. Not that the Rams or New Orleans are bad, but New England's playing kind of lights out right now, at least defensively, right? So I think these are 2 good tests, and we just really want to keep an eye on Foreman's production overall. All right, let's keep rolling, guys. All right, Elijah Moore. I'd be kind of surprised if he was available in most leagues. We've talked about him a little bit over the past couple weeks, and I have to admit, I did not pick him up in my primary league where I'm really hurting at the receiver position. I didn't think it was a good matchup versus the Bills, A. And B, with Corey Davis coming back, I did not think that this would really amount to anything. But I've been wrong about that, man. And I thought that it also depended on who's the starting quarterback, right? Because oh my gosh, who's the backup to Mike White? It's Johnson, right? They showed some really good chemistry versus Indianapolis, right? That was the monster game for Moore, and I was like, well, maybe if Mike White comes back, that same chemistry isn't there, and also with Corey Davis coming back, like maybe this just isn't a great play. But then when we look at the numbers since week 7, he's got 4 touchdowns and some pretty good stat lines, right? Even against Cincinnati, where he didn't score, he has 67 receiving yards. So, in full PPR, Elijah Moore is heavily involved, right? And this was a player that was talked about a lot in the preseason and offseason. So, I actually quite like Elijah Moore. I do think it is time that he's officially rostered in all leagues, at least like 10-man plus leagues, especially 12-man plus. Like he should absolutely be rostered. Okay. He's got Miami and Houston and Philadelphia, then New Orleans coming up. These are some very good matchups. I mean, Philadelphia and New Orleans, not good matchups for like number 1 receivers, but for someone like Elijah Moore, who's like a number 3, number 4 receiver, they're good matchups, man. And I think he's going to play very well over these next 2 weeks. So, yeah, I really like Elijah Moore. He's actually one of the players I have the most conviction in on the list today. So, yeah, I would go out and get Elijah Moore, especially if you're hurting at the receiver position and have some good confidence in him as well. All right, let's see here. And yeah, that's the other thing as they're talking about right here is Flacco, man. Flacco is probably going to maybe be the guy. Who knows what's happening with his Jets receiver or quarterback position, man. Nonetheless, pick up more. Pick up more. Okay. All right, Dan Arnold. Yeah, we got a tight end on the list, baby. All right. I really like what Dan Arnold's put together over the last 3 weeks. Okay. We've talked about him in the past couple of weeks, but we wanted to see some more consistency. But he's really, we just talked about Jamal Agnew and Marvin Jones. Well, you could argue that Darren Arnold is the number 1 wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, he had the team high in receptions as well as receiving yards. Or no, yes, and then just second in targets, right? Which is, it's not phenomenal being that he's on the Jaguars, but nonetheless, he's a tight end that you can start, especially in full PPR formats. You get San Francisco, Atlanta. I mean, those are 2 very good matchups coming up for tight ends. So I like Dan Arnold, especially if you're hurting at the tight end position. I definitely think he's worth adding at this point. 10-man plus leagues, of course, 12-man plus leagues, absolutely. So yeah, I like Dan Arnold. We got 2 Jaguars on the list, man. I mean, hey, they might not be the best team, but doesn't mean that they're not fantasy relevant. All right. Marcus Johnson, okay. Julio Jones is out for the next 2 weeks. He was out in week 10. He'll be out through the bye week. He should return in week 14 versus Jacksonville, but nonetheless, man, Houston, a very nice matchup for the Titans. New England, a much tougher matchup, but a tougher matchup for the wide receiver 1 being A.J. Brown. I think that this is actually a relatively safe game for Marcus Johnson, but listen, he stepped in for Julio Jones, and he's played better than Julio Jones has played all season long, okay? 5 receptions off 6 targets, 100 receiving yards. Man, can you imagine if he got in the end zone? This is a good short-term play for sure. And don't get me wrong, this could blossom into a long-term play. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, Julio Jones has been wildly unproductive on the season. Let's just be realistic, okay? So I like Marcus Johnson, especially in deeper leagues, full PPR leagues, especially in week 11 versus Houston. I think he is worth the addition, absolutely. Rashad Bateman, okay, you see him towards the end of the list, excuse me, because I don't think he's available in most leagues at this point, and he shouldn't be available in leagues at this point, okay? No, he has not had crazy high production in full PPR. He had a very nice stat line in week 10. He gets Chicago, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland. These are very, very bad secondaries, guys. Chicago played surprisingly well against Pittsburgh last week, but nonetheless, man, these are good matchups, okay? And Bateman is definitely turning into a volume guy, a full PPR guy. Had 8 targets, 6 receptions, 80 receiving yards overall. He did. No, he did not have a fumble. He recovered a fumble, which some leagues that actually gets you points, but not in many leagues. But listen, I didn't think Bateman would really be available for most of you guys. But if he is, like, there's really no question about it for me anymore. Even if and when Sammy Watkins does return, I think that he becomes kind of the number 3 guy. And Bateman's kind of solidified himself as the number 2 guy for the Ravens. So does that bring a lot of value, being that the Ravens run the football so much in the red zone with Lamar Jackson and their carousel of running backs, and Mark Andrews is really the number 1 guy in the end zone, and Hollywood Brown gets those big play touchdowns, right? Not necessarily, but we still haven't seen him get in the end zone, which is really what I've been looking for in terms of recommending him as a strong start. But nonetheless, the volume's there, the PPR value is there, and he should be rostered in all leagues, 10-man plus leagues, absolutely. Maybe not an 8-man league. Maybe you've got to get enough roster there, but 12-man leagues plus, he should absolutely be rostered. All right. 2 quarterbacks on the list. We got Cam Newton on the list, baby. Let's get it, man. What, just 2 plays, 2 touchdowns, right? I mean, this was absolutely beautiful to see, man. You guys know that I love Cam Newton. Big fan of Cam Newton. He gets Washington and Miami coming up, a bye week, then Atlanta. I'm not going to be surprised if Cam becomes the guy because the quarterback play has just been so awful in Carolina this year. Now, don't get me wrong, PJ Walker has played all right in the absence of Sam Darnold. And kind of the idea we talked about over the past week was, if you're confident in Cam Newton as a starter, well, he can't be any worse than what we've seen out of Sam Darnold, and I don't think he's any worse than what we've seen out of PJ Walker as well. Um, so I like Cam Newton. But I don't think you should go out and panic and pick up Cam Newton if you're confident in the quarterback that you own or the 2 quarterbacks that you own. This is more of if you're really struggling at the quarterback position or you play in a super flex league, if you play in a very deep league, right? This is a move to go out and make pretty soon because I do think that Cam could be the starter moving forward. As we can see, the reports from Ian Rappaport, Panthers plan to give Cam Newton most of the first team reps at quarterback this week in practice. So I'm not going to be surprised if he comes out versus Washington as the #1 guy versus his ex head coach, Ron Rivera, where he was rumored to go in the preseason once he was cut. It was rumored to go to Washington, right? So nonetheless, I love this fit for Cam Newton. He looked good in this offense, right? Uh, is he going to be the best in the red zone? Yes. Okay. Could he have 12 rushing touchdowns like he did last year? Yeah. He'd have to do it pretty quickly, but it could happen, right? I could see the number being closer to 8 or 9, but nonetheless, man, uh, you just can't get over that, right? I mean, he only had 2 plays, right? And he had 2 touchdowns. Shout out to Cam Newton, man. We're happy to see him back. And it depends on your situation. I don't think you need to go like dropping a starting quarterback who's been in the top 15 for you on the season for Cam Newton. If you want to pick him up as trade value, then go for it, man. But nonetheless, he's going to get picked up in a majority of leagues this week, and I think it's rightfully so. All right, another quarterback on the list, man, Justin Fields. Okay, listen, man, Justin Fields has quietly put together 2 very good games after that abysmal performance versus Tampa Bay. Oh my goodness. Listen, after the bye week here in week 10, he's going to have Baltimore and Detroit. I like these 2 matchups, okay? Baltimore could be a little tricky, but really Baltimore's defense has not played very good on the season whatsoever. So I actually like this matchup, okay? The secondary for Baltimore is not entirely strong. So listen, we're seeing Fields really start to develop, in my humble opinion, okay? 175 passing yards, a touchdown, did have the interception, 103 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown in week 8 versus San Francisco in week 9, 291 passing yards, a touchdown, an interception. It's his rookie season now. Let's give him a little bit of a break. 45 rushing yards as well. But the most important thing there is he held Chicago in that game. He kept them right in that game, and it was very, very impressive to watch a young quarterback play. There's a point in this season where we were like, "Holy cow, we are not picking up Justin Fields," and we saw him start to, kind of flourish to degree versus Green Bay and play pretty well. Only lost that game by 10 points. And then he came out and just had that bomb of a game, 2 fumbles, 3 interceptions versus Tampa Bay. Only 3 points put up by Chicago on the day. But nonetheless, he's come back very strongly in the next 2 weeks, and he's looked like a different quarterback. So once again, if the situation is right for you, super flex leagues, very deep leagues, all of those things that we just talked about with Cam Newton, I think that Justin Fields is a good add. He could have some very good games here in the final stretch of the season. So, yeah, I like Justin Fields. I think he is worth rostering here in or heading into week 11. All right, let's see here, boys. Let's go ahead and switch this up. All right, let me go over my final notes here. Those are your top 10 waiver wire additions here in week 11. Let me see who else I've got in the notes. Let's see. Trichoid Smith put together a pretty nice day for the Saints. He does kind of look like the #1 guy over our boy Marquez Callaway. If you're really hurting at the receiver position, especially in full PPR, Trichoid Smith can get you over the hump for the week. He had a team high 7 targets versus the Titans, so keep an eye on Trichoid Smith. Jordan Howard did not find the end zone. Listen, guys, I'm not necessarily recommending any of these Eagles running backs because, once again, we saw how incredibly inconsistent they are versus Denver in the past week. But Jordan Howard had an okay day, 12 rushes for 83 yards, but he did not find the end zone. I mean, he's really a standard scoring half PPR guy that you're just crossing your fingers he finds the end zone. But there's our stat line on Jordan Howard if he's available in your league. Alex Collins is still the number one guy, okay? But he did not look very great in week 10 for the Seahawks, okay? 49 yards on 11 touches. Arizona is one of the best teams against opposing running backs in the league. He's still number one back as long as Chris Carson stays out, though. All right, going back to the Eagles running backs, Boston Scott had 13 touches for over 100 rushing yards when he's done absolutely nothing in the last 2 weeks. So I don't trust these Eagles running backs. Miles Sanders could come back in the next coming weeks. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to trust these Eagles running backs. Is all I'm saying. But they played okay versus, actually a pretty decent Denver run defense. Okay, Logan Thomas did not make the top 10 list this week, right? But I will say that I very much so like Logan Thomas. We've had him on the list the last 2 weeks, and this is probably your last shot to get him because I do think that he'll play decent versus Carolina. But I don't think he'll actually play that well, if I'm being completely honest, because Carolina's a pretty stout defensive unit and specifically very good against tight ends as well. But here's the thing with Logan Thomas. Once people see him playing, people are going to remember, oh gosh, Logan Thomas. That guy is pretty good. I think I tied it. I can go pick him up. He's playing again, right? So just keep an eye out on Logan Thomas. If you're hurting at tight end, man, go snag this guy up. This is a top 10 player at the position when he was healthy. So we've been waiting very long. I've been recommending stashing him for the past 2-3 weeks. And I really, really like Logan Thomas, man. I think he's going to be just fine, even with Ricky Seals-Jones playing very well in his absence. Go pick up Thomas, man. All right, let's keep an eye on Matt Breida of the Buffalo Bills. Listen, I don't want to get involved with this Bills carousel of running backs, right? But I don't want to read too much into this because the Jets are the worst team in the league against opposing running backs. But he did have 2 touchdowns on 5 targets versus the Jets yesterday. So keep an eye on Matt Breida. I'm not saying go out and get him unless you're like in a 20-man league or a 16-plus man league, but nonetheless, keep an eye on him. Listen, guys, I hate to say this, but I just have to for your guys' sake. Okay, you guys know I have full faith in Christian McCaffrey. I don't want you guys trading him. I'm not recommending trading him. I still think that Christian McCaffrey is going to be just fine. But I know that some of you guys, especially last night when we talked, were a little bit scared because he went into that blue medical tent, all that stuff. But here's the thing: Tuba Hubbard stole a touchdown from Christian McCaffrey yesterday, in my opinion, being a Christian McCaffrey owner. But nonetheless, Hubbard's still a very good handcuff. He played fine in McCaffrey's absence, and he got a little bit involved in this game as well. As we saw, he got 9 touches and a touchdown versus Arizona. So keep an eye on Hubbard, man. He might be someone who is worth the handcuff if your overall roster is looking very strong. All right, Latavius Murray may be coming back here in week 11, so keep an eye on that situation. He really has looked like the number one back when healthy for the Baltimore Ravens, so keep an eye on him overall. But once again, who knows, man? Who knows with the Ravens' overall carousel of running backs there. Ray McCleod put up a pretty nice stat line on the day, caught 9 of 12 targets for 63 receiving yards. How much of that have to do with Big Ben not playing and Mason Rudolph playing? I'm not entirely sure. But at the end of the day, man, Chase Claypool is out. Ray McCleod is looking like the number 2 guy. I mean, I actually thought it'd be James Washington overall, but Ray McCleod played very well. So keep an eye on McCleod as well, especially in deeper leagues, full PPR leagues as well. All right, let me see what else we got here, man. Listen, Mac Jones is worth keeping an eye on, okay? He faces Atlanta in week 11. This is really more of a stream play, which we'll probably save most of those for the, must-start quarterback video of the week. But nonetheless, man, keep an eye on Mac Jones, okay? This might be someone who's worth adding on the week at the waiver wire or on the waiver wire. Michael Gallup had a decent return from IR, man, caught 3 of 5 targets. Dak Prescott was looking his way in this game. So keep an eye on Michael Gallup if he's available in your league. Listen, man, I'm not overreacting to Robbie Anderson, but he did have an okay stat line. 4 of 6 targets and a touchdown. That's just his second touchdown on the year, though. Let's not overreact there, but don't get me wrong. Keep an eye on Robbie Anderson as well as Allen Robinson, who had his second best game of the year last week and is probably available in your league as well. CJ Uzma, keep an eye on CJ Uzma and Cole Kmet. Love them at the tight end position. Tyler Conklin, Listen, man, had 2 touchdowns this past week. Keep an eye on Tyler Conklin. And that should really be everyone. Let's double check within my personal league. Let's see who else we've got available. If there's anyone else we just want to go over, take a look at. Brian Edwards is someone who I'm not in love with, but he did put together a relatively nice stat line: 88 receiving yards and a touchdown versus Kansas City. Gets Cincinnati, Dallas, and Washington, and Kansas City again. Then Cleveland and Denver. I mean, a pretty decent stretch, really, outside of Denver. And Dallas could be a bit of a tough matchup, but a pretty nice stretch coming up for Brian Edwards. I mean, we've liked Brian Edwards all season long, but we just haven't seen him play on a consistent standpoint. I mean, uh, you look at the numbers here: week 7, a nice stat line, 43 receiving yards and a touchdown. Then a bye week, then a goose egg, and then 88 receiving yards and a touchdown in week 10. So, hey, keep an eye on Brian Edwards, man. I mean, he's basically the wide receiver 2. Well, really wide receiver 3, excuse me, with Darren Waller involved there as well. Let's see here. Quiz Watkins continues to disappoint. Amon-Ra St. Brown put together a pretty nice stat line overall on the day, at least in full PPR, 61 receiving yards. But, man, I just cannot trust these Lions wide receivers at all. What did Khalif Raymond end up doing, man? Yes, this is why. 29 receiving yards for Khalif Raymond, who at times has looked like the number 1 guy. I just can't. I cannot trust these Lions wide receivers at all. I don't want to recommend going after them, man. All right, let's see what else we got here, man. Zacchaeus on the Falcons actually had an okay day. I mean, he had an awful day. Don't get me wrong. He only caught 2 passes, but 7 targets still there. The volume is there. But nonetheless, I don't like this matchup for the Falcons headed into week 11. But keep an eye on him. I mean, the volume is there. Don't get me wrong. So definitely something to consider there as well. Outside of that, guys, I'm not seeing anyone else that we really need to cover. Adam Trotman, surprisingly out of nowhere, had a pretty decent day in volume, had 6 targets, but he's been wildly disappointing. If we're going by our preseason rankings, our co-host Steven was very big on Trotman, and he's been very, very inconsistent on the season as well. Yeah, really not anyone else. There is one last thing that I want to go over here. Let me get this pulled up. Yeah, Cordaro Patterson with the ankle injury, guys. Okay. Let's see here. Is tending to a strained ankle in the aftermath of Sunday's loss. Was not officially ruled out at any point. But they do, listen, the Falcons play Thursday night versus New England. So here's the thing, man. Mike Davis might be available in a lot of leagues for you guys. I'm not crazy about Mike Davis in general, but if he is going to be the number 1 back, then he is certainly worth adding for the week if Patterson does not play. So keep an eye on Mike Davis, man. He could be a big play, especially in leagues like 10-man leagues, some 12-man leagues, and 8-man leagues. If you're really struggling with Patterson being out, he could be a play here in week 11. All right, there you guys have it, man. Oh yeah, and then we got Derek. I see shouting at the end of the chat here. Wayne Gallman, in addition, overall, yes, Wayne Gallman on top of Mike Davis. Excuse me, absolutely worth the addition as well. All right, guys, I'm going to get into some fantasy Q&A here. I appreciate everyone sticking around for the waiver wire edition segment. I'm going to go ahead and get into the chat here, and then we'll keep rolling. All right, guys, hit that like button, man. If you're new to the channel, make sure you sub down below, become part of the Catch fam, and let's get into some beautiful fantasy Q&A as we are now finished with our Week 11 waiver wire editions. Derek Lincoln, what's going on, man? I had Stevenson and had him on my bench, started J-Rob over him and lost by 4 points. Wow. Slade against Mahomes and Hill. Shake my head. Wow. Tough loss, Derek. Justin White, should I trade away Evans and Hopkins for Lamb and Agnew? I would not do this. No, I wouldn't. I think Hopkins is offering way more value and healthy than Agnew. And Evans and Lamb relatively similar, right? I mean, I love CeeDee Lamb. Don't get me wrong. I know that probably a little bit more reason to want CeeDee Lamb, but still, I think the combination when healthy of Mike Evans and Hopkins is a lot better. So I'd hold on to them. Derek, I picked up Foreman and Stevenson on Saturday off the wire. Let's go. Great pickups. Great pickups. Yeah. Derek Lincoln, I picked up Elijah Moore last week. Hey, look at you, Derek, balling out, my guy. I didn't start any of them this week. Hey, it was hard to. But everyone you named except Agnew is on my team. Let's go. Let's go. Don't sleep on Agnew because he gets points off punt returns too. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I don't have Dan Arnold because I have Andrews and Schultz. Thinking about dropping Schultz this week to activate Hopkins off my IR if he comes back, though. That's fine, man. You can roll with Andrews. He's definitely going to be more consistent than Schultz. But once you drop Schultz, you're probably not going to be able to get him back. Phase 10 foil, what's up, man? Up by 44. My opponent has Debo and Stafford. Should I worry? Worry, yes, but don't panic. Don't panic, man. Justin White, same situation for me. He was on my watch list for some weeks and someone beat me to him. Let's see here. Fletcher, should I trade Waddle and T. Higgins for DJ Moore? Quite frankly, I would not. I would not, no. A better depth, and I mean, Waddle and DJ Moore at this point in the season are very, very close in terms of value. So I would not. What about Waddle for DJ? That you could consider. Derek says, not with Cam throwing the ball. Do Cam throw past 10 yards? Rather Waddle over Moore too. But that's just me. I do kind of like Waddle a little bit more there. Wayne, Gallman could be a good pickup if Patterson can't go on Thursday. Yes. Thank you for throwing Gallman in there. I knew I was for getting the backup behind Mike Davis. Yes, I love that addition as well. Hit the thumbs up. Hey, I appreciate that, Derek. Okay, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and end the waiver wire stream so it's a little bit easier for people to watch this retrospectively, it being a little bit of a shorter stream. I'm going to start a new stream in about 10 minutes just for fantasy Q&A. So, guys, hit that can't talk. Hit the thumbs up on your way out, guys. Make sure you sub if you're new to the channel, and we'll get back and rolling into fantasy Q&A in just a moment here. I appreciate you guys coming out for the Week 11 waiver wire must adds, and we will be back in just a minute to keep on rolling, man. So I got nothing else to say. Thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on the catch. And peace for just a second. If you guys watch this retrospectively, man, make sure to drop any comments down below in regards to the waiver wire. I'll be personally responding to every single question. Like I said, hit the likes up. Wow, the likes up. That's a new phrase. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the sub button if you're new to the channel. And let me know who your top waiver edition is here in Week 11. All right, we'll be back in just a second, guys. Thanks, guys.